Welcome you legends and heliheads and you choppers to this cockpit of the AH-64D Apache, the helicopter module from DCS World. This is part of the Look At series on HeliShed of the helicopters of DCS World. Now in the top right hand corner is an introduction to this series which pretty much tells you that, look, this is not a tutorial series, and you don't want to be listening to me drivel on in a tutorial fashion on anything really to do with DCS World, because the videos will be about 3 hours long and there are much better ones out there. So you know what, I'm going to link them in the main description. Please go and have a look at those. In this video we're going to take a quick and dirty look at how to get about on the battlefield in DCS World, which is clearly an important thing, right? We know how to fly it now from, you know, looking at the first video to give you some top tips and stuff, and you've practiced that. Now how do we get about? Right, so first of all we're looking at two display screens here. These display screens are referred to as MPDs, multi-purpose displays. In some aircraft they're called multifunctional displays, in some other aircraft they're called multifunctional colour displays, but look, they're just displays, and both of those can show you the same information. For example, they can both show you the same information or they can show you different information. We're in the pilot seat as normal, and we're not going to need this screen, so let's turn that brightness down and let's go back to the TSD, the Tactical Situational Display. Now, quick bit of orientation for you. Remember, it's not a tutorial. On the left hand side here you see these grey buttons and grey buttons up here, grey buttons out there, and grey buttons down there. These are called variable action buttons. These buttons are relevant to the text in front of them, which gives us different options on our particular screen. And these black buttons here are called fixed action buttons, and these buttons are always going to take you to that particular screen. Always the aircraft, always communications, always weapons, always fire control radar, and so on. The TSD is probably the most complex out of all of them, because there are so many things we can do when it comes to navigating around the battlefield, and this video aims just to show you very, very quickly and dirty how we can do that. On the top right hand corner here we've got a scale option here, or it's not really a scale option, it's a zoom function. And the number here represents the distance in nautical miles from each line. In this case, from this easting to this easting is 10 nautical miles. We can change the scale of the map by selecting scale here, and then, you know, well, that's the same, isn't it? Something like that. But 1.1 million is going to be no good for us in the big scheme of things, but for a much sort of bigger picture it will revert to the 250k as it's done there. If we were to zoom out, to zoom in too low or zoom in too far, if we were to zoom in too low on this, it will just go to this sort of, you know, this green and black screen. Back to our 250k, thank you, which is at 10 nautical miles from each easting and each northing. Now in front of us here we can see this blue circle here, that's top down view of our helicopter, and we can see some numbers on the screen here which represent waypoints that have been pre-programmed into the screen. The direction and distance to these particular waypoints, if we were to select them, will be displayed on our IADs when we're in the forward flight mode. And currently we can see in this box here the waypoint selected, how far away, the number underneath there represents the speed that we'd be going at, and over on the right hand side endurance information, i.e. how long can we fly with the current fuel that we've got on and the current torque that we're placing the engine under, which will obviously reduce the faster we go. And underneath that we've got some wind speed. If it's less than 5 knots it will say calm. Okay, so look, how do we select each one of these, or one of these to go to? Very simple. At the bottom here we can see it says route. We click on route, we then click on direct, and then we click on the waypoint number, and the line will be drawn from where we are to that waypoint number. And in our IADs we will then have that information displayed as I explain. We'll see that in a minute. Points to note that when we select a route like this, and we've just selected, you know, waypoint 1, when we get to waypoint 1 it'll automatically change to waypoint 2, waypoint 3 and waypoint 4 because it's a route. We can change the route, and we can select a new route. For example, if we go to that current there and we go back to our map menu, we'll see that there isn't a route in here in Bravo because we haven't created a route. We can very easily create a route by selecting add, moving our cursor over whichever one we want to go to first. Let's say we wanted to go to waypoint 2 first, clicking on that and then clicking on where it says end, which is at the end of the route, and then let's say we want to go number 4. We move our cursor there, we select that, and then we then click on end, and that will go to there. So currently the route will be to waypoint 4 and then to waypoint 2. Route, direct, we want to go to waypoint 4 first. There we go. If we want to go to waypoint 2, we would simply click on route again, direct, and then waypoint 2. Let's go back to our alpha route that we've already got there. So there we go. So that's how we select a location to fly to. Very, very simple. We press route, we press route, we press direct, and we press the number we want. Off we go. That line drawn from our helicopter to that waypoint location is a static line. It's not going to follow the helicopter at all. It will just draw a line, and that information will be replicated for us on the HUD. Let's have a look at that. Up comes up our IADS. We selected waypoint 3, and if we go into forward flight mode, there we go, waypoint 3. Let's go to that. Up she comes. And up at the top there, you'll see the heading tape. The heading tape is obviously a tape of headings. And you can see that V there, which represents the waypoint that has been selected. And on our IADS, we will be able to see a marker there, which represents the waypoint. As we get to that waypoint, it will then change to the next in the sequence. Now, we're currently heading towards waypoint 3. In the bottom left hand corner, you can see there 0.7 Ks is going to take us 20 seconds, and we're currently heading there at 85 knots. When we get to waypoint 3, it should change to waypoint 4. There we go. So we track around now to waypoint 4. Incidentally, we can look over there, and waypoint 4, there it is. It will be out of our view, but it will be shown in the IADS. And now we're flying towards waypoint 4. Very, 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 very simple. Now look, there are other ways that we can navigate around the battlefield. We can create our own waypoints. We can create our own points on the map, up to 50, I believe. I forgot to add this. I actually done this at the end of the video, but I've brought it forward into wherever I've put it into the video here. But it's important to be able to put a point on the ground where you start from. Otherwise, how do you get back? It's a big old world out there. Very, very simple. We press on point, then we press add. We're adding a waypoint there. We click on ident, and we're going to call it, I don't know, SP. SP for start point. There are appropriate abbreviations that you should use. If you click on this button up here, look, there are loads of different pages here on all the different abbreviations you can use. But the key thing to remember about abbreviations when it comes to identification is relevant to the icon on the screen. The identification is only about the icon on the screen. So we're going to put in SP, enter. Some free text now. I don't know, let's call it, what should we call it? Home. Let's call it home. HME. Not for homemade explosive, but home. Click on enter. The lat long will be where we are currently, lat long UTM, but actually what you're looking at here is MGRS, Military Grid Reference System. Again, video down below on how to find that. You get it from the F10 map. Click on enter. The altitude is the altitude relevant to the DZ, the digital terrain elevation data, the terrain height that is programmed into the mapping on the aircraft. In this case it's 59 feet. Press enter again, and bang, there we go. Now if we were to go to route now, it's not going to be in this route. It's not here. Oh Christ. We can add that into the route simply by pressing add. We can go to the move the cursor there under number 5. There it is, SP. Click on our cursor and then click where it says end, and that will then appear in the route. And then of course we can then once we've done that, we can then very simply go right, we want to go direct to where we started from, and then a line will be drawn from wherever we are to wherever we started from. That's it. Simple. Very, very easy. And any other waypoints you want to create, pretty much exactly the way in which you just created that start point there, except, you know, anywhere else around the map. It's that simple on the face of it, but this is a very, very complex system, so I refer you to the videos that I've linked in the description below. So that's pretty much how we get about. Like I said, it's not a tutorial, and there are a million things I could cover now, and I am purposely not doing that. This is just a very, very quick, dirty video on how to get about the battlefield. Now, I think a couple of things before I sort of sign off, and that is that when it comes to routes in particular, you know, they're very rarely used in real life routes, unless of course it is a specific route for a combat air patrol, or in this case the Apache is escorting a Chinook for post, mail and people drop-offs. But more often than not, waypoints are put in the system to do with likely enemy locations or enemy threats or previous activities, etc, etc. Very rarely would it be a sort of, you know, everything's got to be followed a route. We saw there we had waypoint 1, we had waypoint 2, we ignored them, we went straight to waypoint 3. So look, that's how we get around. Right, join me in video 3 then, where we'll get to do some pew 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 pew, and I'm going to do that in virtual reality, so that'd be interesting how that comes across. But I think now we can do it in virtual reality, save the track and then record the track back, which again will be interesting. Alright then, take care, see you soon.